Hello and welcome to day 2 of the week of game plans. Today we're going to be going over a game plan against Tianhuo. So let's get right into it. Obviously, Tianhuo is the most mobile character in the entire game, and she plays a whole lot more like a Magneto, or I think coming from my personal background, she plays a lot more like a Jigglypuff. I don't think she's quite got the Magneto Storm level powers of flight or anything, but she definitely plays a lot like Jigglypuff, where she can just stay in the air, and her air mobility makes her incredibly threatening because she can kind of just stay out of the way of the vast majority of your options while threatening a whole bunch of her own. And I think that makes her really good, right? She has a bunch of non-committal options that she can use against you because of that, right? Basically, in order for you to beat her, you have to call something out pretty hard most of the time because you've only got a couple of moves that you can even contest her with. But she's got a whole bunch of things that she can do to you, and she doesn't really have to commit. In fact, she could not commit to anything at all and just kind of threaten a space where you might not be able to react to what she's doing and wait for you to just throw out a button and then just look for whiff punishes and stuff. So she threatens in ways that make it so that she doesn't have to commit very hard in order to win neutral. She's got also some good anti-airs. Her 6A is really good. So let's take a look at some of these. So here's the 6A. Well, here's her 6A. Obviously incredibly good. Look at that ridiculous hitbox. It's a little slow. The startup on it is slower than some other anti-airs in the game, but the hitbox is incredible. Hilariously, this 2B is actually decently good. Similar to Velvet's 2B, where it kind of just has a hitbox that goes above the crouching. Let's see if we can see that. So you can see here, yeah, like it has a deceptively high hitbox, kind of like Velvet's 2B, and you can't cross this up. So it easily can beat out some aerials and still wind up being below their hitboxes while having this gigantic one. It's not as good as Velvet's in the like vertical department, but I think that in the horizontal department, it's much better, right? It's a lot closer to Tianhuo. It's probably quite a bit better at actually dealing with cross-ups here because it's so close, and when it turns around, chances are you're still within the range because the hitbox goes inside of her own hurtbox. So that's really good. In addition, of course, she has got jumping, and turns out that she's just, better at being in the air than you are. So one of her best anti-airs is actually just to be in the air and outmaneuver you. And of course, she's got her anti-air command throw, which is a good anti-air. It's probably better for beating up back than anything, but it still is a true anti-air command throw. So she's got that anti-air option, and her air throws always convert into full combos, which means that she's got that as an option as well. So on pressure, she can blow up back. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but we're still kind of in neutral. She has safe special moves, so a lot of special moves in this game are not safe, but most of hers are either safe or even plus on block, making them some of the best special moves in the game. So you have to be careful. Obviously, some of the special moves are magic-powered special moves, which is why they're allowed to be plus, but she doesn't necessarily need that. She has crazy air mobility, right? She's got super jump, she's got air dashes, she's got fly, as we already showed, she's got arrow case specials. She's just got a lot of really powerful tools at her disposal in the air. She kind of abuses the mechanics of the game at the highest possible level, really. It's quite good. And she has a lot of buttons that are really hard to whiff punish, since she's going to be in the air a lot, and she'll be coming down on you with these buttons. Even though these buttons might have some recovery, a lot of the times the stuff that she's wanting to initiate neutral with and start pressure with, they don't have recovery because she hits the ground and then there is none. Now, obviously, there's trip guard, and she'll lose trip guard for a few frames and all that. So there's the possibility of punishing it there. But that recovery on the trip guard is a couple of frames. It's not like whiffing even a jab, because the jab's going to have, I think nearly a quarter second of recovery, like about 13 to 15 frames of recovery. This is going to have a couple 60ths of a second where you can punish it, and that's what she wants to be using all the time because she can get in with it. That's really good. Similarly, a lot of her normals are also pretty tough to whiff punish. They have good range, as we saw, and it's tough to be outside of the range while still in a range that you're going to be able to hit them. She also has good dashes, so you can see here she has a back dash that's sort of reminiscent of Velvet's already. Look at that back dash; it's very good. And you can see, look at how low her hitbox or her hurtbox gets when you go with a forward dash. That can go under grounded Oleander fireballs. It just low profiles a bunch of stuff. She can go under things that you might not expect her to be able to get under. And she, it's not quite like sway levels of power, but the forward dash on the ground, she actually has a good ground game. It's just that her air game is so obnoxiously powerful that it's like kind of doesn't matter. Like, she's probably not going to be on the ground very often anyway, just because being in the air is even more powerful. And then, of course, a lot of her buttons have good disjoints, as we saw here, right? This doesn't really move her forward very much, but it gives her a really good hitbox forward. She's got some pretty decent disjoints, right? Like, a lot of these do move her forward, but they move her forward for the most part in a way that you would expect. It's not like Oleander's overhead, where the entire hand becomes a hurt box, right? She's actually got pretty solid disjoints here. And so her ground game is actually quite good, with good dashes, strong options for attacks, and just difficult to punish normals in general. So she has strong neutral, very strong neutral, and it's tough to be able to beat her out. Similarly to Oleander, she's just going to hit you for existing, and that's just something you have to deal with. For her pressure is very good, right? She's got 3 lows, all 3 of these. Oh, sorry if we push the right button. All 3 of these are lows. She's got a slide, the little dictator slide where she can fly back in. So she's even got like a low that allows her to get back in on push blocks. So she's really good on push blocks. Super duper strong when she's in the air. She's obviously got some pretty nuts abilities in the air. So one of them, of course, is if she's got 4D, she can do 4D into really fast buttons, just like really fast buttons, and you can't really do much about that. So she has great safe overhead options off of her 4D air normals. So she's got one of the few safe overhead strings in the game on pressure. And she can turn jumps into mix-ups. Now, like, obviously, everybody can turn the jump into the high-low junk. But she gets an extra layer of mix-ups. Let's call it that, right? Everybody gets a mix-up off of a jump-in, but she gets an extra layer of mix-up off of the jump-in, because she can cancel into flight, she can air dash, she can do a bunch of things that allow her to stay in the air and threaten additional overheads before you actually have to start blocking the string on the ground, like your standard string. So she gets an additional layer of mix-ups off of being in the air, and that's why she wants to be in the air so much, is because even when she just gets blocked in the air, unlike on the ground where she would get like a standard mix-up, in the air she gets an additional layer of when am I going to go onto the ground, and that gives her really powerful high-low mix-ups. Obviously, she can do cross-ups. Some of her moves just cross up and hit. She's also got the ability to air dash or use some of her D-dashes to get on the other side of you. She's got a lot of really powerful options. And she beats up back, like we talked about earlier. She's got a command throw. She's got an air throw that goes into full combo all the time. Really strong. Her anti-push block game is good with her disjoints, her ability to fly cancel, her instant air dash, her specials having really long range for the most part, and of course, she can move you basically all the way to the corner on any hit. So regardless of where you are in the game, if she gets any hit on you, you're flying all the way to the corner. In addition, she also has really good meter build. She's got the second fastest meter build in the game, second only to Velvet. And she doesn't really need her 2 meter special in order to get a lot of power out of it. Just the 1 meter special being able to keep you stuck in the corner and have to deal with a crazy high-low mix-up afterwards is enough. So oftentimes you'll see Tianhua's not even going into the 2 meter special, because even though it is good, it requires an additional set of play, because her fly just sort of reacts differently. She doesn't immediately lose her fly if she presses an aerial button anymore, and she loses some straight up damage, but she starts gaining meter, her magic meter, much more quickly. So because of that, she still gets about the same amount of damage that she would normally be getting, because it doesn't stop when she's flying in the air and that kind of thing. It doesn't slow down her magic gain. But she gets a couple of good options. The problem is that, like, she's so good already with so many great options that a little bit of additional stuff that she gets for being in 2 meter mode is often, the players decide just not quite as good as having, that second knockdown in the corner if we get another hit into, 1 mix up and you're dead. So she's got a lot of meter she can use for other things instead, and she gains it very quickly. So that's also good not only for her pressure, but also for her defense, which is what we'll be talking about now. Clearly, she has got some good magic options from push block. She's got the ability to actually fight back off of a push block and jump forward and immediately have options where she's the one who's now kind of like Oleander, at a range where things are okay again, because she can push block and then she can be in the air, and she's now in a spot where your buttons don't hit but hers do, because she can just do whatever. And again, a lot of good magic options here off of push block, which means that you have to be careful, much like against Oleander, with the dreaded push block into push a button move, because she's going to be able to do that. And even just her normal disjoints are solid options there. She's going to be able to go forward and hit stuff that some other characters have too stubby normals to be able to hit, but her normals are actually quite decent. She doesn't have any true invincible reversals. All of her reversals are piecemeal reversals. She has one that beats throws, she has one that beats strikes, but she doesn't have anything that just beats it all. So she doesn't have her one-size-fits-all, if you pressed a button, you're going to get hit here reversal. And so that does make it so that if you can get her on the defense, it's kind of a guessing game, an additional layer of guessing game that doesn't go in Tianhua's favor. But regardless of that, she's got some ridiculous things. She's got Firecracker. She's got 3D, right? And 3D is nuts. That move is super good. Immediately beats any throw attempts, I believe. So she can just do that, and it pops her into the air. She's the best up backer in the game. 7D is dumb. It's strike invulnerable. It puts her. So that's the thing, right? Against a lot of characters, you beat up back by pressing a low attack. But against Tianhua, her up back is strike invulnerable, which means that you can't hit her out of trying to up back with your jabs or anything. You can only do it off of throw, which can put her into some situations where this is totally free, right? Where, since the only thing you can do to stop that is a throw, you can be at a range, especially with characters like Oleander, where all they have to beat your up back is, say, sweep. And while that's usually a highly threatening option that can beat up back in certain situations, against Tianhua, it just loses for free. She just gets out, there's no question about it. Strike invulnerable, couldn't throw her in that position. Her up back was guaranteed speed. And that is super powerful. And then, of course, as we already spoke, she's got a really, like, this backdash looks really good. So, her defense is actually quite suitable. Despite the fact that she doesn't have a true reversal, she does have an option for everything where she can create a reversal situation. And so, while it isn't quite as great as your, beats everything invincible move like Velvet has, it still gives her a lot of options, a lot of power, and a great deal of her defense really comes in the form of this, right? She's got mobility, and her ability to just, like, let's see here, her ability to just, like, leave. Leave the situation. Just, like, super jump, fly, we're out of here. Like, what were you going to do about that? Nothing? Nothing. So, or 7D, same idea. She can just kind of, like, get away because her defense comes not from the fact that she's really good with reversals or blocking or anything, which she still is. She's suitable for all of those things. It just comes from the fact that you can't keep her there. You're not gonna keep Tianhuo in the corner the whole time. It's just not possible. She's got an invincible up back, a strike invincible up back that lets her fly out of the corner and use her, command dashes and stuff. And you're not stopping that. So her defense is very good. She's got a couple of small little issues, but they generally get covered up by the fact that she's got so many different options that it just doesn't matter. And then, yeah, we sort of talked about this. She's got resourceless plus frames with cancels into fly and that sort of thing. And one other thing that I don't know it really gets talked about very often is that Tianhuo has some of the best timer scam game out there. All of her combos are super long. She can fly in the air. She can super jump, fly, can air dash, do buttons out of the air. She's got some scary stuff that she can do that makes you not really want to be around, because if you get clipped by that, you're in trouble. So she can Justin Wong you, right? Tianhuo can absolutely Justin Wong you. She can super jump, fly cancel, and then use firecrackers to fly up in the air, and then fly cancel, and then stay up in the air forever. All her combos take a million years, so if she's close and she gets a hit at like 10 seconds of timer time, she can easily burn potentially the whole 10 seconds just by comboing you. And maybe even like that would be one of the best uses of her second meter, is to just go into a big long fly combo that burns out the timer because she's already got the win there. And if that doesn't work, then she can immediately, instead of going for a mix-up on wake-up, which she's really good at, just fly into the air and be like, see you later. There's no way that you can catch me with anything that combos into like enough damage to stop you here. She just is really good at timer scamming. And I don't think that gets talked about a lot, but against the Oleander matchup specifically, I feel this, because Oleander also takes a long time. She timer scams in a different way, of course, but she can also do this. And Tianhuo is one of the few characters that can do it back with almost equal effectiveness. So this character is scary, and she's really good just off of the round start, and that's really tough to deal with. So what are the options that we have here? Let's start coming up with some ideas. During our opening, obviously she is quite good, but what we do have here, as we do in many situations, is we've got our TK Fireballs. And interestingly, in this matchup, the TK Fireball is actually even more powerful, because unlike some characters who, when we throw the high TK Fireballs like that, they aren't going to be anywhere near that, and they're just going to dash in, which Tianhuo can totally do, by the way. But chances are she wants to be in the air because she gets that extra layer of mix-up and those extra safe and non-committal options. And to do that, she's actually got to beat out these fireballs that we throw at ranges that aren't necessarily the super fast TK Fireball ones like that one was. She's actually going to want to be up here, so we can throw slow fireballs. We can attack with some decent anti-air normals, and she's actually kind of got to deal with that. So a lot of times, just sort of trying to play the air game and get the hit, we can kind of do that. Obviously, Tianhuo can get above us to the point where that no longer works, but she's got to get there first, and we can cut off those options at round start. So round start, find a way to get TK Fireball into stuff super good. You can even possibly get some reads out of there if she has to block a Fireball, or even some combos, because jab A into fist is a combo, and any fist that you hit in the air, if you still have double jump, will allow you to do stuff off of it, and fireballs have a ton of blocks done, or sorry, a ton of hits done. So there's a bunch of ways where you can kind of like get in the air and play the air game against Tianhuo, and you're not playing the offensive game, right? She's the one who does that. You're playing the defensive game, but you've got enough pretty non-committal options here that you can actually contest a lot of the screen in the air at the same time. And she does have to deal with that. You've got a super that you can use in the air, and if she gets hit by that, then you can go into Fred. So you do threaten like full screen aerial options against her, which not a lot of characters can say they do. And that's useful. So I think that round start is often going to be trying to beat out that fly game. You can just occasionally try to check here. Oleander's 5A is super good, of course. And the dash forward one, I believe, can catch a Tianhuo that's trying to jump at round start. And while she's probably still going to be blocking at that point in time, at the very least, you kind of keep her grounded for a second. So I think that the dash forward jab does work here. And so it's like a legitimate option. And then backing off, not as good. Right? Like, we don't want to be doing a backdash here because she is the aggressor. She's going to be the one who can really deal with that a little bit better. So, like, the backdashing on round start is kind of scary. If she flies forward with a button, we're either getting hit or we're going to have to block an immediate double, extra layer to mix up. So I think that backing off here is actually not a great strategy. She's got enough ways to get around your fireballs and stuff that if you don't have yourself behind it with neutral buttons backing it up, it's just not real pressure. She'll get around it a whole lot more easily than most characters will, and trying to back off into a zoning situation against Tianhuo is probably just giving her space more than it's actually creating a situation that we will want in the mid game, right? So the mid game, of course, is going to look an awful lot like this most of the time, right? Like this, and this, and these are the things that we're going to have to deal with all day long, forever and ever and ever and ever. She's just here, right? She's just out of our reach in situations where she can fly around with firecrackers and air dashes and fly cancels and crazy specials that work in the air, and we can't contest that, right? Our best options are to be getting magic so that we can throw out some amount of counterplay. Obviously, in this matchup, that is really good, right? It may not stay in the air, which would be super nice, but it is really good. And then, of course, the more powerful epilogue version in the air is going to cut off a lot of options that she wants. So this is one of the matchups where I think that epilogue might actually be like a really strong neutral tool. Obviously, you're going to use it once in a while just to play, like it beats out certain options and makes it so that you can play a little turtle game safer. But here, I think it might almost be like an essential part of neutral to be able to threaten that occasionally, because the Tianhuo is so mobile in the air, and making it so that she's got an obstacle course that you actually have to, or that she can actually have to deal with, that's very important. So I think that occasional epilogues, just to cut off her options for 13 seconds, or until she can find some way to run in and block it and not just like lose neutral after doing that, seems good. So And a lot of times, of course, if you've used Epilogue, you can probably get 1 or 2 of that magic back before you really have to worry about them threatening the Epilogue. Obviously, Tianhuo, one of the exceptions, because she can fly in from so far, so fast, air dash. She can just air dash into it, block real quick, and then now you don't have your Epilogue anymore. So you do have to still be careful with it, and the placement has to be good, but you can place it in spots where she's going to have troubles. Even if she hits you, if she's here, all she can really do is maybe like throw you. And now the big option you have to worry about is actually just throw. So, you don't want to be kicked to the other side of the screen here, but if you can stay away from that, you've cut off a lot of the other mix-ups that she's got there. I think it's actually quite good to do that. I see players do that when they're playing in tournaments, so I think that certainly is one of the options. Of course, this button goes really high. Now, Tianhuo can get over it, but Oleander's got one of the best, area denial moves against Tianhuo in the game, which is going to be that anti-air goes to the moon. And in order for her to get above it, she's got to super jump and then fly over it, or then fire a cracker. So she's actually got to use at least 2 movement options to be in a position where she can fly above you and not worry about getting hit by this gigantic hitbox. Now, her most powerful tool against that, of course, is that she can wait, right? She doesn't have to commit. So it's tough for you to commit against that and then have her just sit there and go, nope. It kind of forces you to be proactive. Maybe not the aggressor, but it forces you to still be the proactive one on defense. And that's not really what Oleander wants. This, on the other hand, can be quite good. So I think getting magic in this matchup is super important and also very difficult to do, because she is often able to continue pressing and pressuring and getting in with her low profile dashes and her strong disjointed hitboxes and her unbelievably powerful air moves. So there isn't an easy way to do that. There isn't any here's the situation where you get it. You just kind of have to figure out situationally where you think you can sneak a magic in here and there. You've done, 5 fireball jabs in a row. Now it's time to jump up and get some magic instead. So you do this, you get some magic. All right. Cool. So she makes it really hard to get magic, and magic is super important in this matchup because it allows you to cut off screen positioning and angles that Tianhuo can use and other characters really can't, right? This, not a big issue against a decent amount of the cast that's going to be on the ground, and they can kind of ignore that. But really good against Tianhuo. And then obviously this, really good against characters that are on the ground. Not so great against Tianhuo. This against an Arizona or a Shanty forces some kind of run forward and then try to hit it commitment, or some kind of armored or projectile invulnerable move that's usually punishable on block. Against Tianhuo, it kind of just causes her to do this, which is what she was going to do anyway. So that's not great. And then if she hits you, then she's not going to get hit by the chapter trap on the way down. And even if she doesn't hit you, then maybe she's going to use an air mobility option to make it so that she doesn't have to land on it. So it just doesn't have the oomph that it can against other characters and other matchups, where their air mobility doesn't just allow them to ignore things on the ground, essentially. So yeah, getting magic I think is a super important part of neutral, but I can't really tell you right now what the most fail-safe way to get it is, because she's just got so many options that you kind of have to just find those spots and get some game sense and play Tianhuo enough times that you can see, where maybe Tianhuo can't get a punish on you if you're getting magic, but probably more likely where the player themselves is going to go into some kind of habit move where you can either get a free hit that lets you get magic, or where you can back off and get some free magic because they're going to pick an option that you can just get away from. So the neutral is really tough, right? Obviously, you've got some good buttons. You've got this button is really good in the matchup, of course. It'll catch a Tianhua on the ground with that ground hitbox, and it'll catch her if she's in the air. So it catches a lot of approaches if you guess the right time of approach. And as far as buttons go, it's got pretty low commitment compared to like this button has got a lot of commitment, this button's got a lot of commitment, but it does take up a lot of space. I think that stand C is a pretty solid button in this matchup, especially like dash forward stand C. It's going to catch a huge amount of the area that Tianhua is going to want to be in. And it is going to force her to be further away than she might otherwise have to be against other characters, which is important because that means that you're cutting off angles and you're making it so that you've got more time to react to stuff. So I think that contesting with some of her more powerful air hitbox normals, very important in this matchup. So against a lot of characters, you can kind of play the 5B game because it catches a decent amount of area, or even the 6B game because it catches a decent amount of area in front of her, but it doesn't have that anti-air hitbox that like her stand C does or her 2B does. So I think that those are kind of the important neutral tools that you're going to be using, in addition to, of course, the double jump fireball, which is just going to be all over the place. I think that's kind of your go-to in this matchup. It's a double jump fireball, push buttons, and if you get like a check somewhere in there or something, maybe like a fireball hit that sends her across the screen gives you a magic, and you just take it real quick. And now you've got one spot where you can use a chapter trap or have an additional fireball in the air that she has to worry about before she can go in. And you'll notice that I haven't talked too much about her teleport option. And that's because Tianhua is almost never in a spot where that is a good idea. She's going to be above you, and unfortunately, Oleander doesn't track in the air. She only tracks your horizontal position. So it's not like you can catch Tianhua out of flight with a teleport or something. You just whiff, and then she comes down on you because she doesn't have to commit very often anyway, so chances that she just committed right when you went for the teleport are very small, and then you get obliterated. So it's really tough for Oleander to use 2-2D in this matchup at all, although some of the other options that she has are a little more usable. Her teleports can make it so that Tianhua is not in a position where she wants to be, so Tianhua has to be very careful of her vertical position, because you actually do have the ability with double jump and teleport to be pretty high up, and then with the fist you can hit from pretty high up, as well as with her little Medusa attack. That's got a really good hitbox out in front of it that hits well over her, and those two buttons allow her to threaten Tianhua in situations where she would normally not even have to worry about anything at all, especially when used in combination with teleport. So I think that the B teleport and the A teleport are super good in this matchup because they allow you to just sort of pop into a spot where Tianhua is normally safe and threaten a neutral exchange that's in your favor. So that's kind of what I think on the offense way of doing things. And then at the end game here, where we are hopefully kind of in this position or with Fred out, with the power of Fred specifically, you've got 1D, which is going to stop Tianhua from being able to just fly away from you. It's got really good hitboxes. It's going to keep her here. Even her 7D does run out of strike invincibility eventually, which means that the long double hitting nature of a lot of Fred's charge moves will be able to catch her. So you really, like, Fred is even more important in this matchup to actually be able to keep Tianhua locked down. She is one of the few characters that can kind of sneak away from it, because Oleander's standard, like, gorilla bully get in, which is 2-2D into Fred button, isn't great, because she can stay out of the range of 2-2D for so long that it isn't like a free get in that forces your opponent to block an invincible move like it is against a lot of the cast. So Tianhua can actually kind of play a keep away game against Fred, which not a lot of characters can do, because against most of the rest of the cast, you know, you're just going to read until you've got enough magic that you feel like you can just bully your way in with Unga Teleport into Fred button. And Tianhua can actually deal with that. She can actually scam you out. She can get rid of Fred time without having to deal with Fred, which most characters don't really have the option to do, which is why Fred is so crazy. But this is also why Tianhua is so crazy. She just can get away from everything. So if you've got her in the corner with Fred, that's really good. She is going to have to deal with that. You've got so many ridiculously huge hitboxes with Fred. But otherwise, if not, like, the game plan is kind of just going to be, like, to keep Tianhua there. So, like, things that keep her away from being able to jump into the air or make it so that if she 7Ds, there's something waiting for her immediately, are going to be pretty good. So that kind of a setup against Tianhua is actually probably quite good compared to the rest of the cast, where you were going to kind of get in anyway. And of course, anything that's meaty is going to be quite good. One of the most powerful things you can do against Tianhua, actually, is the cross-up. Despite the fact that that puts you in the corner, if you get hit, you're going to be in the corner anyway, so it's not as big of a loss as it is against a lot of the cast. And if she tries to 7D here and you're on the other side, she does not get 7D. And then she thinks she's going to get out of some situation because she's going to be strike invulnerable. She's not strike invulnerable. You can just clip her with that. So I think that cross-ups, despite the fact that they give Tianhua the screen back, can be quite good, especially in combination with things that are going to make it hard for her to just get away from you in the event that she does succeed. Unfortunately, she's got a good ground game. She has a great ground game. She has one of the best ground games in the game. And so she does have the ability to see what happened in that situation and go, oh, I can just backdash out of this. This is fine, right? I mean, it's nearly Velvet levels of we out. And so even the fireball in the air, the chapter trap in the air, she tosses out a page there. She might be able to just backdash under it. She's got a super good, super fast backdash. Just be like, nope, I see the cross up. This isn't happening. But nonetheless, I think that those are kind of some of the options that you've got that are good here. Just try to cross her up so that 7D gets messed up, so that 3D gets messed up. So she's got two options that are good reversals, and they both lose to directional input finagling. So if you can make her mess up the input, she'll mess up the dash, and she'll get the wrong one or no dash at all, and then suddenly you're in. She might even be, dashing towards you just completely vulnerable because of that. So she'll like fly towards you in a situation where you want to try to hit her, and that's really good. So I think that things like that can be very powerful. The cross-up, I think, is really good. Trying to cut off angles with chapter traps, very good. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you're going to want to have to do against her. Obviously, if you can get an epilogue out somewhere like right there, she's really kind of stuck. She doesn't beat your ground normals. She can't jump as easily because she's going to get stuck. She's going to have to deal with some pressure. So again, like, unfortunately, the options that work the most against her are options that require a lot of resources, and she's also one of the best characters in the game at limiting the amount of resources that you can get in Magic, because you're just not going to have the time to read until you get a hit, and then you get some very precious magic. So really, Oleander's game plan here about getting a hit is about efficient usage of magic and just making sure that the things that you do are going to keep her as locked down as possible for as long as possible, because that is absolutely what she's going to be doing to you, and she doesn't need any resources to do it. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here against Tianhua, is just finding ways to cut off her mobility is what you're doing pretty much at all times. That's pretty much the only thing you can do, and on defense, you just kind of pray. If she's got you in the corner here, that is just not where you want to be. This situation is tough. You don't have 2-2D. It's easy to safe jump. It's easy to just fly away from for her. She's got all the room in the world to maneuver around and just fly in with buttons whenever she wants to. She's got a bunch of lows that you actually have to deal with, so it's not like you can just up back and call it a day. block a low and then up back. That doesn't work. She's got a ton of lows. She's going to catch you. I mean, here it's kind of you just pray. You just have to find a place where you can check out with a jab, or I think that one of the most powerful things you can do is probably that, right? Just getting out of the corner, playing the teleport game, using the 1 meter to just, or the 1 magic to just get out, super important. So again, on defense, one of your most powerful options is magic, and she's not going to let you get a lot of that. This matchup, I feel, is really tough for Oleander. The one thing Oleander has got that a lot of characters don't is the ability to actually contest Tianhuo in the air, which means that you're going to be able to cut off some options that Tianhuo would otherwise have. And that's really all you can do, is try to keep her out of spots where she's got you here. Because once she's got you here, it's just coin flip city until you either get out or die. So that's really the plan, is to keep her from getting you here by whatever means necessary. And if that means that you use your teleport in neutral just to gain some space, even if you're not going to hit the Tianhua, if she's in a spot where you can play that game because she's almost got you to the corner, but not quite, and you can kind of just play the teleport into push a button game real quick, right? Teleport into double jump push a button game. Even if that doesn't win you anything, it might be worth using the magic just to give yourself all that screen space to try to work with again, because you're going to have a little tiny bit easier time staying on the side that you want to against Tianhua than a lot of the cast. Because you can kind of cut off, even though she's got great options of flying over you, you can kind of cut off some of those options, and that's pretty much what you got to do. So on round start, you're just trying to contest, because trying to stay away usually just loses you ground, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen so far. In neutral, again, trying to contest. It's really just trying to find those little moments, those little openings where she messes up and she gets hit by a fireball, and now you get 1 or 2 stocks of magic real quick, and suddenly you threaten her. You threaten getting out on defense a lot more easily. You threaten being able to cover options in neutral you can't more easily. You threaten being able to stop her from running away on defense more easily. That's really what you're looking for. Just every little one of those moments where you can bleed a magic out of the situation, it's super important. And then, of course, at endgame, we're really hoping to have Fred so that we can cut off even more of her options and deal with her pressure a little bit more easily in case that she is the one who's aggressing at that point in time. And we want to be stocked enough on magic throughout the fight that we're able to use that magic to finish the game off. And that's really what you've got to do, I think, in this matchup. It's very difficult, but it is possible, and that is the game plan against Tianhua. So next time we will be going into the game plan against the mirror matchup, and I hope to see you there.